Hello and welcome to the channel. So today I'm going to be working to resolve an issue that I've been having with my firewood racks like the one I have behind me here. Now I built several of these a bunch of years ago with just some scrap wood I had laying around, and they work just fine. I like the fact that they're mobile, and because I have multiple of these racks, I'm able to segregate the wood based on age. Now I have had an issue. The issue arose when I decided to put roofs on all of these firewood racks because, you know, I live here in Oregon where we get a lot of rain, so I was trying to protect my firewood. But in the process, I ended up making these firewood racks pretty top heavy, and they have a tendency to fall over if I get a really bad storm. Now this one behind me here has another issue. I had moles dug underneath the backside there, which made the firewood rack tilt to the backside, and all it required was a strong wind and the whole thing toppled over. I've gone through and re-leveled the base here, but I still want to put something up to make sure it doesn't fall over again. So I made the mistake of making this firewood rack way too tall, and when it's full of wood it becomes very unstable. So sure enough, a couple of years ago we had a strong storm which ended up blowing this thing over. I put together an impromptu solution using these stakes here. Instead of staking it down at the bottom, I wanted to minimize the effects of leverage, and I staked it up here. And it turns out this made a world of difference. This has been a completely stable solution. I actually came over here the other day and accidentally hit this with the tractor, and it didn't even budge. So these are working really well. Even though it was just a temporary solution, I think it's going to become permanent. Now I was planning to make some more of these posts here for the other firewood racks and paint them to match, but today I thought I'd do something a little different, so let me show you what I have in mind. Now, instead of using pressure treated lumber, I'm just going to be using natural wood that I collected off my property. Now this needs to be protected, otherwise it's going to rot in the ground pretty quickly. And one method that I've used in the past is just charring the outside of the wood. It's a time-proven system. It's been put into place across multiple cultures over many hundreds of years, and it does work. I've actually done some experiments here on the property, and I have good faith in this system. Also, it's a natural solution. I don't have to use any toxic chemicals to get into my groundwater. So I was initially just going to char the end of these. I usually char them about 6 inches above the ground level, but instead of painting these, I'm just going to go ahead and char the entire thing and see how that turns out. Now, to char the wood quickly, I'm going to be using one of my favorite pieces of equipment here on the property. It's actually designed to burn weeds, but I found that there's a lot of other uses for these things as well. So let me show you how it works. Now you want to use some common sense when you're doing this. You know, don't do this around any dry grass or anything like that that could potentially ignite. Now there's not much danger at this point with starting a fire here because it's been raining for the last few days. Well, I'm running out of daylight here. Hopefully you can see how these turned out. Now I should mention that the idea here is you just want to char the outside. You don't want to burn it so long that it starts to deteriorate and become kind of crumbly. So these worked out pretty well. Now it's time to get them into the ground. So the last few days should have been a really good test for the stake down firewood rack. We had some really bad storms and some really strong winds. As you can see here, this Doug Fir tree I'm sitting on got uprooted as it blew over. So let's go check out the firewood rack. I got a little too dark to continue filming the other night when I was putting all this together, but now you can see the final result. Now there are a lot of different ways I could have attached these stakes. I didn't have any steel strapping on hand, and I've used these little pieces of scrap wood before. I used them on the other firewood rack and they work just fine. And since I have a bunch of these laying around, I thought I'd go ahead and use them again. It didn't really cost me anything other than the cost of the screws and a little bit of paint. And this method definitely works, despite the fact that I don't have anything on this firewood rack and all the weight is up here on the top. We got some crazy winds the last few days, and this thing hasn't budged. So I think this is a pretty decent solution. It's not very hard to put together and didn't cost hardly anything. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the remaining firewood racks. So that's about all I have for this video, and as always, thank you for watching.